Okay, we're here in Florida. What's happening February 24th through the 27th, 2022, Schlapp?
We're going to have a big nationwide CPAC once again in Orlando, Florida. Just like last year when they canceled us in the swamp, we've decided we're going to make sure that no one cancels us, including Brandon. And there's TW Shannon. How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm TW. I am Matt and Mercedes' brother from another mother.
And you're from the wrong state, too, but that's okay.
It's all right. Everybody loves Florida.
Yeah, but you're going to be at CPAC, right?
Absolutely. The greater the freedom, the greater the wealth.
All right, so tell these people they got to go this next year.
You got to be at CPAC. February 24th is the date. You don't want to miss it. All conservatives from around the country will be there, and you need to be there, too.
And go to conservative.org to register.
And follow us on social media. You might be offended sometimes, but you'll be okay.
Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. And yes, we've got the countdown to CPAC, Schlapp. When's it happening?
I have no idea, but I know it starts February 24th. I just don't know how many days away that is. Less than 40?
Probably.
February 24th through the 27th, go to conservative.org to get your tickets.
We've got more and more of our speakers that are being announced. It's been really exciting. And it's going to be a great lineup. You've been talking to a ton of folks, and a lot of folks have been calling, too, that they want to be part of the CPAC panels. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that last year was interesting because you had this whole question about they canceled President Trump on Twitter.
Right.
Would he reemerge? Of course, he did reemerge.
And there was obviously the pandemic. Had
right,
a big part of
and
that.
the city of Orlando was pretty rough. And the Hyatt hotel chain was pretty rough on us at that CPAC. But at this one, we picked a new hotel, by the way, that actually wants our business, which is great. It's the largest ballroom in the state, and tickets are going great. And for speakers, what's interesting is we have a lot of people contacting us this year who haven't been in the last couple of years. I think everybody realizes that Red America and Common Sense America, they want to come together. They don't want to be overly stressed out about a virus. They actually don't want to talk about the virus too much anymore. They know who's responsible for the virus. It's China. And they want to get about kicking Biden in the pants, kicking the Democrats in the pants.
Was that a Trump impersonation? China?
It was.
China,
Yeah.
You're so funny.
Well, of course, Trump was back on the rally schedule.
Yes,
he was in
it's so
Phoenix,
exciting.
and he had a great rally.
Yes, yes. So I miss the rallies.
I do too.
But it really energizes the folks, and we're going to have a bunch of great conservatives on stage. We hope you can join us. But this is an important week. This is the Biden anniversary. Can you believe it? The anniversary of Biden's presidency. 1 year. It feels like an eternity, people. I'm exhausted by the long list of failures by this presidency. And I mean, what do you think? What do you think is happening here?
I just feel like the man wasn't up to the job at the very beginning, and so we're all paying the consequences of that. We don't really have a news media anymore. They covered for him. He didn't really campaign, and because of that, we have a man in the White House who's, it's sad to watch. He's just not up to the job. I mean, if it was my father or my uncle, I don't think I would be complicit in the push to get him into office. Because once you get into office, we've seen how the president works up close and personal. It's an all-consuming job. Like you can't be asleep. You can't be away from it. Like you never get away. Even when you're on the golf course, you're getting interrupted constantly. There's no way to turn the job off. And we have a guy that's, I think, given 3 or 4 hours a day to the job.
Well, not only that, but he's not answering any tough questions for the media. Apparently, he's having a news conference, I believe, tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But the big question is, does President Biden get a passing grade on the economy? We're going to be talking to distinguished visiting fellow at the Hoover Institute, Kevin Hassett. He'll be joining us.
Yeah, we love talking to Kevin because he has broad experience and really understands the economy and really all domestic policies.
Can I tell you, Matt? He predicted several months ago when we had him on the show that inflation would get to 7%. And I remember we were like, "That's just way too high." We're at 7% in terms of our inflation.
And his point is that these once these horses are out of the barn, it could get a lot worse.
Right.
Now we're sitting here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where we've just elected a great new governor, Glenn Youngkin, who was sworn into office and gave his inaugural address and spoke to the General Assembly. And one of the first things he did on day one was to rescind the mask mandate from his predecessor, Ralph Northam, Dr. Ralph Northam, known for keeping the babies comfortable
Right.
while the parents and doctors determine the best method to kill the baby, otherwise known as murder. He's, by the way, now back to practicing medicine. We have a real governor in the governor's mansion, but leave it to the swamp. All these areas in Virginia that are right next to D.C., they're all defying the governor's rescinding of the mask mandate, and they're saying he doesn't have the right to tell them they're going to keep mask mandates.
That's right.
In these school systems.
That's right, and that's what they're doing. You have school districts like the Arlington School District, City of Alexandria School District, Fairfax County. They are all saying that they're going to continue this required universal mask mandate, basically, quote unquote, in alignment with the CDC guideline. And I got to tell you, Matt, as a parent, and I've talked to so many parents, as
You're
you have
a parent?
too.
That's good. I am too.
Well, good. I know we share the same kids, but really, it's very hard for these kids to be learning 8 hours a day with a mask on. And I even worry so much about the little kids who are being forced to wear these masks, where so much of it is facial expression and being able to look at the teacher speak, and they don't get that right now. And I think that you've seen the very severe mental health issues across the board impacting not only the youngest, but also teenagers as well. And I just think that it's shameful that these liberal school districts and these teachers unions continue to push these mask mandates. We're hoping that the Catholic schools stand up against the public schools, and that they really apply Glenn Youngkin's executive order. But, this is all ending up in the courts as well.
Yeah, that's right. And even Jen Psaki, who apparently might have some kids in the Northern Virginia in Arlington.
Why doesn't she live in D.C.?
We'll put it up on the screen, but she says, "Hi there, Arlington County parent here. Don't believe you are Glenn Youngkin, but correct me if I am wrong." I think that's sarcasm. "Thank you to APS Virginia for standing up for our kids, teachers, and administrators and their safety in the midst of this transmissible variant." Now, what she's saying is she wants that school system to keep the mask mandate, and obviously the Biden administration has a vax mandate, which the Supreme Court overruled. They have a mask mandate at the White House, yet every time she is asked if there are cases of Chinese corona at the White House, she will not give the number, because they can't manage the virus either, because none of these tools are managing the virus. And what did you say?
Well, honey, you have the note. I think I don't think I have it. Do you have it?
That part. There it is. Oh, there it is. Do you want me to read this?
Yeah. Just pretend you're me.
Okay, so here's my great wife responding to Jen Psaki.
I've learned from the best, Matt Schlapp.
Hi there. The kids don't want to wear masks and have suffered enough under the draconian rules of the Democrat liberal schools. It's actually socialist. I'll have to teach her how to fix that in the future. Parents voted for real change in Virginia, and it's time for the parents to make the best decision for their children to wear or not to wear a mask.
That's right. Let the parents decide. Do you want your kid to wear a mask because you're very scared? Then have your kid wear a mask. But if those parents don't want their kids to wear a mask, let that be their choice. And I think everyone can come to a much better decision. I just think right now it's just unfortunate to see that we've elected a new governor in Virginia, Republican governor, making these very effective decisions, and they're being ignored by the school districts.
But these vax mandates, these mask mandates, the social distancing mandates, all the lunacy that's around us, none of it worked. We didn't prevent Chinese corona from spreading at all.
Right.
And so I would just simply say we got to look at it through realistic eyes and say, okay, what works and what doesn't work, and what works the best is if you're sick or you feel like you're getting sick,
and
stay
it's like,
home.
if you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. Like, that is your choice.
Get 3 vaccines.
Between you and your healthcare professional. Of course, like my relative that got all the vaccines called me and was like, I just got COVID. Yeah. So just stay safe and healthy. We pray for you and your family. And we got to tell you, there will be no mask mandate at CPAC Orlando in February.
No mask mandate, no vaccine mandate, no social distancing or limitations, and we're going to have the Attorney General Ashley Moody there just to make sure no one gets too aggressive from the local government, and the governor, Ron DeSantis, will be there to do the same. So don't worry. It's all about freedom, folks, the freedom to live the life as you want. If you want to live in a way where you take some precautions on the virus, fully for you. if you want to live in a way where you don't want to be kind of like dominated by the virus, even more bully for you, and you're going to have a great time.
Did you say bully?
Bully.
Like bully.
That's like Teddy Roosevelt, bully.
I got it. All right, Kevin Hassett joins us next.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Schlapp with CPAC, and it's my privilege to tell you that we've got a very important project that we've just announced, the First Amendment Fund. It's a brand new fund that we've created through our criminal justice reform efforts to raise money to take care of you, Americans who are being canceled and desecrated out there around the country. We know it just happened in Virginia, where parents were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration, where people who just want to express their political views are canceled left and right. Now we have this terrible specter of a vaccine mandate where you can lose your job or be prevented from going to a restaurant or go to school according to your vaccination status. These are all the things that are happening in this country that are making people realize that America is in a fight to defend the principles that have made her great. If you want to be involved in this important effort, please go to conservative.org, click the link for the First Amendment Fund. Please donate to this C3 to help these victims across the country, including those who are just involved in politics, to make sure they have the legal representation they need to be able to live their great American life. Welcome back to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. As promised, we have a great guest to talk about the failed Biden economy. Kevin Hassett, the distinguished visiting fellow at the Hoover Institute. Kevin, great to have you back on the show.
Oh, it's great to be here too.
Okay, well, you have a job, so that's good, and I guess Mercy and I have jobs, but for the
it fluctuates, Schlapp. It depends on the day.
Underemployed and slightly depressed American people, is there any hope with these policies that things could get better in the economy?
No, things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. The Federal Reserve is about to start hiking interest rates. Inflation is the highest it's been already since 1982, but it's going to go higher from here. And so we're really looking at, I would guess a reasonably high chance of a recession before the election. So, because when the Fed starts hiking, then that kills the economy. Anyway, sorry to cut you off, Mercy.
I just want to, I'm 53, so I remember the last time we went through this as a country, but I was a young kid, so people have to really think about this. We're talking more than 40 years, and so what ends up happening?
You didn't have gray hair back then, right?
I didn't. I had blonde hair. But the point is people start really having a huge trouble paying off their credit cards because the interest on the credit cards goes through the roof. You can't sell houses because there's a constraint on getting home loans. And of course, those mortgages could have double-digit interest rates like they did under Jimmy Carter. So all the main staples for people that don't have the financial resources, it just exacerbates everything. And then, Kevin, everyone gets in a really sour mood.
Yeah, and one of the best measures of this is the real wage. So basically, if you get paid $1 last year, then it was worth more than it is this year because there's been 7% inflation since last year. So your dollar is worth 7% less. And so wages have gone up some this year, but real wages are down 2.6% for the year. And so you look at how upset Americans are with the economy. Well, of course they're upset because they go to the gas pump and it costs way more. They go to the grocery store, and if they can find groceries at all, honest to goodness, I just went to a grocery store right near my house here just north of Georgetown, and there was no beef at all in the store.
Yeah.
Right. And so people when they can get it, it's costing a lot, and then in the end, they feel like they're worse off because they are, and so they're 2.6% worse off already this year, and it's going to get worse next year because wages aren't going to keep up with it. And people are more and more sour, and so that right now the polls show that Americans understand that we've turned back into a kind of Jimmy Carter economy, and sadly, the data are going to confirm that as we go through the year.
You mentioned the empty shelves. We're seeing this across the board, going to different stores. What is causing this empty shelf phenomenon? And what can the federal government do to relieve some of these issues that we're seeing happening in our grocery stores?
Well, there are a number of factors. The pandemic has gotten worse because of the Omicron variant, and that means there are truck drivers who can't go to work, and people at the grocery store who can't just show up to stock the shelves. But it's about to get a lot worse because Biden is imposing a vaccine mandate on truckers who cross the Canadian border, and about half of truckers haven't been vaccinated. And so I think it's 3 days from now, all of a sudden, we're not going to be able to ship stuff across the borders very much. And so as empty as the shelves are now, it's going to get worse. Where's Mayor Pete? Sure, they got this really great documentary about him on Netflix because they're trying to turn him into the guy who's, the heir apparent to Joe Biden, who I can't imagine would run after all this disaster. But Mayor Pete, where was he when, people were stuck on 95 for 2 days? Where is he now that we can't get, beef into our grocery stores? He's totally asleep at the wheel. There are things that we could do if we were in the White House that we'd be doing them. But the Biden administration is doing the opposite. And again, the vaccine mandate, I'm all for the vaccine. I got it myself. I got a booster. I think it was the right choice for me. But to mandate it, that's really like a completely different story. And to mandate it for people in the supply chain precisely now when the shelves are empty is kind of a metric of how bad Biden is on everything, right? So as bad as he was on Afghanistan, if you think about what he's doing to the economy, it's almost as bad.
It's what the socialists, who are so good at marketing in some ways as they get the help of New York City and Madison Avenue and Hollywood, but what they fail to understand is the testing should have been an easy layup for them, Kevin. You guys knew how to get the testing done, get it in people's hands. They passed a $2 trillion emergency spending bill. I don't think they bought a test. I think they just paid off a lot of political allies who run these big cities, and they were caught flat-footed. And second of all, you really don't have to mandate something that's essentially free and something that the government wants you to do, i.e. take a vaccine. But when you mandate it, it has this aura of, why do they have to force me to take it? If it's so good for me, they shouldn't have to force it. And I think that's what socialists, communists, totalitarians, fascists, they never get, which is they want us to bend our will to theirs, when sometimes all it takes is a rational conversation.
Yeah, and Mercy knows about what the grocery stores look like in Cuba, right? And our grocery stores are heading in that direction. But honest to goodness, if you look at what's going on, because like retailers are, getting, like, shoplifting is through the roof. I was just on Fox. We were talking about, believe it or not, train robberies. Train robberies are up more than 300%. Because basically we've stopped enforcing the law in the name of social justice, but you can't have social justice without justice. And so everything in the economy is falling apart. The shelves are empty, and Biden's making it worse with this vaccine mandate. So what it really means is that there's going to be a heck of a lot of inflation. So if you're lucky enough to find stuff at the store, it's going to cost a lot more.
So Kevin, you're let me tell you, we've both have spent time with you, but you're my happy warrior. Like, I can't have you doom and gloom this whole entire time. And all you're telling me is that it's going to get worse. How should Americans prepare for what's coming?
Well, I think that folks are actually doing the right things. Folks are pretty smart about this. And one of the things that everybody's doing is that they're sort of holding off buying stuff and starting to save because they anticipate some hardship ahead. The good news is that Build Back Better is dead, I'm pretty sure. And so that the spending binge that Biden started the year out with that gave us this inflation is at least slowing down. And, if Republicans capture the House and the Senate, then there's potential stuff that can be done to roll this back. But in the end, like, go back to COVID, obvious that you should get tests to everybody. It was kind of obvious that we should get treatments, increase the number of treatments at hospitals. And instead, the Biden administration was calling it a pandemic of the unvaccinated. They're demonizing people who haven't been vaccinated, even to the point where The Lancet, which is a pretty liberal medical journal, wrote, they published an editorial criticizing basically Biden for demonizing the unvaccinated and dividing Americans. But the fact is that it's not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The vaccine helps you not have a serious case, but people with vaccines are spreading the disease. I have one friend who's been vaccinated and boosted, and he's had COVID twice now. And so it's just this thing that it's going to keep rolling through us, for a good long time, just like the common cold. And instead of recognizing that, that basically Biden decided to turn it into a political football and divide Americans and make it seem like, it's those stupid Trump people who aren't getting vaccinated that are causing all these troubles. And because of that, we weren't prepared with the tests and the treatments we needed when Omicron came through. And now that's having an effect on the supply chain. But make no mistake, the supply chain disruption is not like a 1 or 2 month thing. It's going to be there until Biden's gone. Right, they're going to, when are New York and California going to stop the shoplifting and the train robberies? Right, are they going to do that? Before there's a Republican at the White House? Probably not. And so people will flee to Texas and Miami and Florida.
I'm trying to, Kevin. I'm like, let's go. I mean, we could move anywhere else. He's not buying it.
Well, let me tell you, if the governor of Virginia's revocation of the face mask policy is overturned by Northern Virginia's idiocy, that might be enough to push me over the edge. But let me ask you a question, Kevin. You're coming to CPAC, and you're a great friend of CPAC. And one of the things that President Trump understood so well was the ability. Now, it's a little unusual on the right. We have this annual conference, which the left doesn't have for whatever reason. They're usually pretty good at organizing things, but they don't have a comparable conference. And the president used to call us and say, okay, who should be there? What should we talk about? Should my kids show up? Like, he viewed it as something to leverage for his agenda. Let me ask you a strange question. How come the Biden administration, which can't use the president or the vice president to sell any of the policies because they're both toxic, how come besides Mayor Pete, who's only famous or infamous for not doing his job for a long period of time, how come none of these cabinet secretaries are ever out in any way where the American people can see them? How come they're ducking and covering?
Right. Well, I think it's just because, all these feckless policies, from the military to the economy, are pushed by people that don't know what the heck they're doing. And so if you put them out on TV, that becomes obvious. I don't know if Mercy remembers, but there was a time in the Trump White House where we used to spell Friday with a Y, because it seemed like every Friday somebody got fired. And people got fired because President Trump held them accountable, right? Like, so if you weren't doing your job, then he would find somebody that would. And I think that a metric of how weak Joe Biden is, how much he's lost his fastball, is that all this stuff is going wrong and things are getting worse and worse, and nobody's getting fired. Nobody's being replaced. I think any other White House in the history of the world would have had a shakeup by now, given where he is in the polls. But that's not happening, and it's not happening because the guy's not really there, as far as I could tell.
Well, it's interesting. What a great point, because you're saying, for example, the media using the term reset. So what's happening is on Kamala's team, they're moving towards a reset, and the White House a reset. There is no, like you were saying, shaking things up. It's quite interesting when you have the HHS secretary Javier, Becerra. You don't even see him on the Sunday talk shows. People don't even know who he is. During this pandemic, you would think we would want to see our Health and Human Services Secretary out and about talking about how they're combating the pandemic. That's not the case. So it really, you're so right, I think, on how they've handled the White House. I will say that when we were in the comms team, we would always joke around that we only wanted to beat Anthony Scaramucci's days, he had 11 days that he was communications director. That was our goal all the time, knowing that we could beat Anthony Scaramucci. But let me just get your just final thoughts on, we've seen the CNBC poll come out. 60% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of the economy. this goes on and on of what you're talking about. We've hit the 1-year anniversary of the Biden presidency, and talk about one failure after the other. I mean, don't you think that the Democrats and Joe Biden would get a clue that they've got to change course?
I think that definitely Democrats get that. And I think that it's something that, you know, I think you two know the polls better than anybody. But one of the things that jumps out at me is that Biden's disapproval is way worse than the disapproval for a typical Democrat, a generic Democrat. And so what it means is that as bad as it is for Joe Biden, there's still a chance that it's not a great year for Republicans, you know, if they don't get their act together and be really organized in the fall. And so I would guess that like we saw, you know, or we keep seeing people ducking appearing with Joe Biden now. You know, Stacey Abrams just ducked his speech on voting rights down in Georgia. And I think that what's going to happen is that people are just going to run away from him. And honestly, it could be that Republicans end up saving the Democratic Party, as has happened in the past, because one of the things that I've noticed about my friends that are up on the Hill as elected officials is that they have a chance to do the right thing. They do it. If there's a big Republican sweep in the fall, then what's going to happen over those last 2 years is there are going to be a lot of people trying to fix this broken economy with good, sound policies. And if Joe Biden will sign it, then they'll work with him. And so if you say I'm a sunny guy, well, I could sort of actually say that absolutely people should be willing to work with Joe Biden if they recapture Congress. And it doesn't really seem like the guy has a compass. And so maybe that's good news, because definitely Democrats, after getting soundly defeated, will be, willing to reject AOC, run towards the middle. There are already a lot of sensible Democratic economists like Larry Summers criticizing the crazy Democratic policies of the year. And so you could imagine that the Democratic Party would go back sort of in the early Bill Clinton direction. You remember back then, Bill Clinton ran, believe it or not, people forget, he ran on business tax cuts. He did.
Yeah,
when he first became.
Democrats.
So yeah, there are sensible people over there, and my guess is that the Biden and the Democratic defeat that we're likely to see in the fall is going to maybe make some moderates come out of the Democratic Party.
I guess the only thing I'd say, Kevin Hassett, is at least Barack Obama admitted he got a thumping, and Bill Clinton said the era of big government is over and that they got shellacked. So what we haven't seen is any humility from Team Biden. They got shellacked last year, at the end of last year, in Virginia and other places, really all over the country. I think they're going to get shellacked again this year in November. Let's see if they have the ability after that to walk out and own the fact that they got shellacked. I have a feeling it's not going to happen.
Shellacked, I say they got shellacked. And with that, Kevin Hassett, we want to thank you so much for joining us on CPAC Now. Looking forward to seeing you in sunny Orlando, Florida.
We're going to be right back after this break.
Okay, we're here in Florida. What's happening February 24th through the 27th, 2022, Schlapp?
We're going to have a big nationwide CPAC once again in Orlando, Florida. Just like last year when they canceled us in the swamp, we've decided we're going to make sure that no one cancels us, including Brandon. And there's TW Shannon. How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm TW. I am Matt and Mercedes' brother from another mother.
And you're from the wrong state, too, but that's okay.
It's all right. Everybody loves Florida.
Yeah, but you're going to be at CPAC, right?
Absolutely. The greater the freedom, the greater the wealth.
All right, so tell these people they've got to go this next year.
You got to be at CPAC. February 24th is the date. You don't want to miss it. All conservatives from around the country will be there, and you need to be there, too.
And go to conservative.org to register.
And follow us on social media. You might be offended sometimes, but you'll be okay.
Sweetie, it was great to have you back. I had Larry O'Connor as my guest host, and then I had Matt Whitaker, and now you're back. Are you happy to be back with me?
I'm happy to be back here. And I think what we're going to do with the show is we're going to see more faces, right? That's part of the plan.
Yes, we are expanding our CPAC channel. I can't wait to share with you all the news. There's a lot happening as we're getting closer to CPAC. And Matt Schlapp and D.L. Hudson, they have their book out. Your first book, honey. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, it is my first book. Now, Deal and I co-authored it, so I
Right.
can't say it's my book, but it was a labor of great pain.
Labor of great pain.
And
That
Mercy
would be
helped a lot with
accurate.
it. She helped me edit it, and I am proud of the book in the sense that I think it speaks to the last couple of years and what we've all been through,
Right.
and the insanity of cancel culture, and we're calling it the Desecrators, because we think there's an evil aspect to cancel culture. You know, cancel culture is about politically canceling somebody, eliminating their First Amendment rights, but we're calling the book the Desecrators because we believe they go right for what holds America together, and there's a real evil to it, and there's a desire to knock down anything that's good and holy, and culture's part of that, family's part of that, how a society improves as a part of that. And they go
Right.
for every one of those things headlong, and they try to make it seem like there's something
Right.
wrong
It goes
with
after the family. It goes after the children. It goes after our churches. And it's how we stop the desecrators in the process. Because I think one of the things that parents learned this year is when they got too close to the kids and they started pushing all these horrific ideologies, parents fought back. And I think it was an inspiration for all of us. And it's why we all have a role to play to stop the desecrators from overtaking this great
I think
country.
that in the past, many of us, when the charge of racism comes forward, or being, Islamophobic, or whatever hateful invective they can throw at us, we tend to back down and say, "Well, I got to consider this, because if my words are making someone think that I'm trying to be hateful, maybe I ought to reconsider my words." And as we step back and delay, that gives them the opportunity to come forward and really take the advantage and the momentum. And I think what I have learned personally is to not any longer take that delay.
Right.
When they call you a racist or a homophobe or Islamophobe or whatever the term is, that means you're getting somewhere.
Right.
And you're probably close to the truth. And it's true that those of us who love America and love her founding, we're the most tolerant people on earth. This has been the most tolerant country the globe has ever seen.
Yeah.
So don't get on your heels just because they start calling you names.
Well, we have a great busy week. We have a wonderful lineup of guests the rest of the week. So stay with us at CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. And remember to follow us on all the social media platforms at CPAC, at Mercedes Schlapp, at M Schlapp. We'll keep you posted on what's happening, and make sure you have the right talking points to go out there and talk to members in your community. Thanks so much, and good night.
Bye-bye.